Next session is Desi LLM. Request Vishnu How Hanooman LLM CO to come on stage. Ankush Sabirwal co-rover. Vivek Raghavan co-founder Sarvam, and Vivek and Pani to come on stage. Also request Leslie Monte, who's going to be the moderator, to join on stage.
So what should we call it? Good afternoon or good evening? So I can see, it's very hard to digest certain stuff after lunch. Luckily, we have had a very heavy kind of sessions. So I'm hoping to make this slightly lighter because what we have on this panel are basically people who build Indic LLMs, Desi LLMs, and LLM-based chatbots, the multilingual ones. So really, there are two ways of looking at these discussions that we've been having from morning. So one way of looking at it is that there's nothing more practical than a good theory. And the second part of it is that the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. So I'm looking at, if you look at the LLM market, these are figures from Markets and Research, that the LLM market is projected to grow from $6.4 billion in 2024 to $36.1 billion by 2030. This is according to a March report by Markets and Markets. Why am I telling you this number? For the simple reason, because at the end of the day, our folks here have to make some money also. Because otherwise, why would they be making LLMs? Of course, now we have lots of examples. I think some previous speakers said that there are some 30, 40 models. I don't really know what the exact numbers, how many people are actually working on Deshi, Indic, or localized kind of LLMs. But yes, I think fairly the number would be around 50, I guess, whatever they are. But we have on the stage itself, so India has Sarvam AI, which of course is a Gen AI startup that has launched the Open Hathi series. The Hanuman model that was jointly released by Sita Mahalakshmi Healthcare, the SML India, and 3AI Holding, which is an Abu Dhabi, Dubai-based investment firm. So Vishnu is here, who's going to speak on the Hanuman model. Then there's LLM-based chatbots also. So we have Ankush Sabirwal, who's doing the BharatGPT LLM-based chatbot. Not to be confused with the BharatGPT program, which has caused so much confusion around, which is a kind of an initiative with the Reliance-based group. But I guess those things need to be concretized at this point in time. Then, of course, we have Reveri. I'll come to Reveri in a bit. We have Bhavish Agarwal's Krutrim AI, the Nilekani Center AI for Bharat, the Airavat series. You have the Tech Mahindra's Indus project. We have Pranav Mistri's deep tech startup, 2 platforms that recently came out with Sutra. That's also a multilingual LLM. That's Sutra GPT. And of course, if you're wondering what is Reveri doing, of course, Reveri is also building a multilingual interface for MG Comet's in-car voice assistant. It has helped GeoPay to go live with voice support. Am I right? I hope I got my facts right out here. And of course, they're dealing with natural language understanding, NLU, translational and transliteration APIs, speech to text, and much more than that. Now, the whole point is that several companies, as we have said, that are creating these India-based LLMs, the Indic LLMs, and the LLM-based chatbots. But most of them, as we have realized, are building it atop the LLMs that are already there, whether they are the closed-sourced ones or the open-source ones, whether they are OpenAI models, whether they are from Hugging Face, whether from Llama, whether it's Claude, whether it's Llama, whether it's even the smaller SLMs that are there. So there's a lot of options that they have. So technically, they are called wrappers at this point in time. And there are some companies that are saying that, no, we'll build it right from scratch. Now, some companies do not want to reinvent the wheel for reasons best known to them. And the approaches are also very different at this point in time. So we'll just figure out in a bit from our esteemed panelists as to what exactly are the approaches. Challenges abound, as we know, in terms of data collection, cost of computing, inferencing, and tokenization especially, because as Vivek will point out, that I think he's put it on his website also very, very a very categorical admission, and I like it, is that the cost of tokenization in Indic languages, especially for India languages, are at least 5 to 10 times higher than that is it's for English languages, and the others will subscribe to that point of view, but they'll also tell you some workarounds. And of course, there are these IP copyright violations, the usual suspects, hallucinations, biases. I know Arvind Tiwari doesn't like the word hallucination. He feels it's a feature. Regardless of how you treat it as a feature or a bug, remains an irritant which has to be solved.
Can you hear me?
So,
So what we will do is we'll spend some 5 to 7 minutes with each speaker, and I'll ask them as to what they are building. So they'll give us a brief idea of how they are building it. And then we'll talk about the challenges and then the way forward, as simple as that. And then I will open it for a Q&A with the audience, because you seem to have a very technical audience and a very highly interactive. You love to engage with the speakers. So we'll have enough opportunity for you to engage with them. Let's start with you. Why do you look surprised? It's okay. I've not been signaling you out for attention. It's just, I think you are one of the early movers in this field with Sarvam. I know that you were involved with AI for Bharat also, the Airavat series, and there is a link over there, but of course Sarvam is a pretty independent kind of venture. So if you could just tell our audience a little about what exactly Sarvam is doing, and a little on the Open Hathi series of models.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about both the kind of the origin story as to how we came to do this. I mean, as you said correctly, I was involved both with AI for Bharat as well as the Pani project, and doing various things for Indian language in open source, and that was the focus of what we were doing. And I think that I think that this is true for everybody. I think that the ChatGPT moment happened, and the question was how do you react to that? Do we actually continue to build in open source? Do you continue to do those things? And after a few months, I felt that maybe this is we have to do this differently, even though the goal is exactly the same. There's a continuum basically, that how do you increase access to these wonderful technology. I think that the kinds of things that I'm a big optimist about what these technologies can achieve, but that access can only be greater if everybody is able to use it. And that was the point that we started off and indexed on as to what we were doing. And I think one of the things we realized many things over the course. Clearly, one was this whole tokenization issue, right? That basically, and it's interesting. I know that right now I think people have understood it, and many people have actually fixed this problem, including GPT-4o, which is a good thing. Which means that basically these models are certainly more usable in. But I think that one of the things that, as we looked at these things, I think the key thing that we said is, we think that voice is the key. I mean, if you look at access in India, right, especially somebody who is going to look at things in Indian languages, their ability to type in most digital forms in India is extremely hard. So I think that the fact that voice is really the starting point of what you need to be able to do is one thing that we think is kind of important. And we also believe that these things need to help people get things done. Okay, so therefore I think all systems need to be both voice and agentic systems. And that's really been our focus. Of course, Indian language deeply remains our focus as to what we want to do, but we actually want to come out with solutions that look at these two key things. And of course, when we're talking about voice, I mean, nobody wants to talk in pure languages. We want to talk in colloquial kind of everyday language, and the ability to be able to do that in a way that we actually normally talk is something that is the key mission of what we want to do. And I think the more we thought about it, right, I mean, I want to index on, right, really the fact is that if India is a country which is using Gen AI to do useful things, okay, maybe not us, maybe as, I would like us to be as a company, but in general, okay, then we have actually done things, well, right? And if we are not able to do that, then, and so therefore building foundational models is only is a means to that end, right? And that is the purpose for which we are doing these things. So therefore, that's something is important. And again, the surfaces in which these things will be used may be very different. The costs that we need to have may need to be very different. So I think in all of these contexts, that again, and therefore we actually, if you look at it, if you look at these frontier models, they're getting bigger and bigger, and obviously they're doing, they can do amazing things. We're not questioning that. But I think that actually having use case or domain specific models that do very well on and are actually very cost effective again are focus.
But Vivek, without really getting into the challenges bit of it, if you can just tell our audience how you went about building this very quickly. Not about the challenges, because I mean there could have been many approaches that you could have taken.
So I mean, see, I think there are as all of you guys know, there are various ways at which you can do it, right? At some level, you could actually take an open source model and just even fine tune it, right? You can that's one kind of a way of doing it, right? The other kind of way, which is some of the efforts that we are doing, where you're actually kind of you actually take a model. Maybe it's not trained from scratch, but you actually do significant interventions at the pre-training stage and actually use that to build this. And of course, we also have efforts where we are training things from scratch. So I think that the combination of all of those things are there, right? And I think that depending on what you want to do, all of those things may be relevant for what you do.
Fair enough. Vishnu, in your case, I mean, I know that Vivek is very fond of elephants, so you have Open Hathi series, you have the Airavat series. In case of Vishnu, is more fond of what you would say, the religious characters, so it's a Hanuman series now that you have out here. So Vishnu, you also can quickly just tell us how you went about building it. You could have done so many other different things.
Yeah, we could have done so many other different things, but but I always end up doing things which no one does. That's how I have been. This is my 4th company, and I had this question every time I started something. I'm building something which is not even SML, something called Vizi, which is working in the genomics part. And the money I have put in, everyone comes and says, you can build one hospital and you are a doctor. I'm a doctor basically, so I'm an orthopedic surgeon. So that's how it works. But we're coming to Hanuman, so I will answer the first question, why you are fond of religious names. Hanuman was started when we were building this. I met a few people. I virtually talked to everyone who is in this field. Everyone said, see, building a foundational model from scratch is a very responsible work, because generative AI is such a powerful technology. When people implement this, use this, you're again responsible for what it does. So it's a very responsible work. So many people said, don't even do that because it's super responsible. Take some model. Indians have always done very well with that. Take an open source model, fine tune it, do all that stuff. Don't build something from scratch. But it's 2 things. One, super expensive. You have to put in a lot of money before someone even tries to fund you. They will not even fund you. They will run away. Second thing is very responsible. So we wanted to write a responsible framework, like how are we going to be responsible? Like, because if you see the guidelines, policies, still it's in the making. Every country is trying to do that. India is trying to do that. US is trying to do that. So that framework, when we were writing, it hit upon me that AI should be something which is very responsible, used for public good. But what is the framework for it? Like, who represents that? That's when Hanuman came into my mind, that Hanuman is such a powerful force, but always Hanuman has used his power for public good. Never like, he could have become a king, he would have become anything. He didn't do that, he always used it for. So I said, this is a great thing. And then I rolled it out with one person who is my mentor. And he gave another perspective. He said, see, Hanuman is very royal servant of Ram, and Microsoft is calling it as co-pilot. And Hanuman always was a co-pilot of Ram. So both ways it works. Name it. Till the last moment I named it Hanuman, I was still not very sure whether I will name it Hanuman. And then I went and named it. So now, like, it's fine. People have settled with that name. And all the other series which will come up with will have some connotation of, because it's an Indian model, we also want it to be on the face, to be an Indian. I could have called it Atlas or Apollo or anything, but I said, like, when we are saying that built in India for the world, that's my tagline. I said, the name should also sound Indian. Let people ask me, who is this? So I was in British Parliament last week and people asked me, some people knew, very few people, 5%. Everyone asked, what is this Hanuman, right? So because it has two words, people were pronouncing it like that. And how we built this, I have another talk later, I will tell that story, it's very interesting. But what we have done is, Hanuman is a foundational model built from scratch in India. And we are chasing the chat GPTs of the world. Today it is 665 billion parameter. Big model, we are chasing 1.1 trillion next phase. So the version which we are seeing now in the market is 372 billion parameter model. It's just text to text. Next model, we are going to release a multimodal model. And other things, even coding, everything is going to come. We are even creating something called Hanuman OS to make people use it. We feel that India should build models because we have the best people in the world when it comes to AI. We have been ranked equal to US when it comes to manpower, the resources. But we didn't build models. We thought that this is a chance. Generative AI is an opportunity which I got in my lifetime. 25 years back, it was available. Maybe it was an internet generation which previous generation got. And if you don't live this, another 25 years, nothing is going to come. So it's that big change. I'm like super, positive about the generative AI. As Professor said, it changes how you use technology. You can talk into that. That's a big change if you think. You don't need to type. So it's an amazing change. And all the people who are doing something on conversation are doing great things because that's how we'll start interacting with our machines later. Typing will become like old style.
Good. I like the explanation you gave about Hanuman, but I wasn't driving at that. It was more about, I like the clever way we have, that association with the Indian diaspora also is extremely important for these kind of things. To be fair, even Pranav has called it Sutra, Bhavish has called it Krutrim, which means artificial. So it's pretty interesting from those kind of things. Of course, now, two people who are talking about Indic LLMs, then there are these LLM-based chatbots that we have, the multilingual ones. One of them, how many of you have used the Indian Railways chatbot? Can we have a show of hands? There's just one person?
The audience doesn't travel by train.
Sorry, Ankush. So you'll have to explain what does the BharatGPT chatbot actually do with the IRCTC. So
Sure.
please tell us a bit about the LLM-based chatbot and how you went about building it quickly.
Perfect. First of all, thank you so much for inviting, and really great to be here in this
Matrix.
audience. Voice is okay?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. Yes, what we're trying to do with BharatGPT is we want to make any system talk. See, what is the natural way to do interaction, right? So you have come all the way here. We want to meet, we want to talk. And we want to do exactly the same when a user, a citizen, interacts with a system, a machine. So we want to make like user-machine interaction same as user-user interaction, which is a natural way. And let me start with some statistics. How much do you think in India is e-commerce? Any guess? How much percentage would be digital commerce in India? Yeah, absolutely, around 4%, right? It's less than 5%, and we techies think it's saturated market after Amazon, Flipkart, and a few more niche players, and we think it's saturated. And see, I know many people, elders especially, they're still not comfortable buying stuff online. You see, the whole, the way of using that system is totally different. It's not the same experience as you go to grocery store or brick and mortar store and you see, acha bhaiya, ye de do, give me this, how much is the price? Okay, just remove 1 unit. Now how much? 900 rupees. Okay, give me. Right? So this is the natural way, and systems, of course, we did not have voice earlier, so we built the system feasible way with the HTML and CSS and all that, so we did a great job. But again, we could not attract the whole mass, right? And now, see, a lot of you do not know about Ask Disha. Well, that's fine, see, because that there is a challenge. And why we don't use it? Even I don't use many chatbots, right? We build chatbots. Because we think it doesn't work. Because when we had tried around 5-6 years ago, when if you remember first chatbot or virtual assistant popped up in any website, you would have tried and it was probably not working. I think most of the times it did not work, and we had the same stereotyping like now also it would not work. It's okay to play with, it's okay to test, but for actual usage conversion, you will try not to use it because you had tried 6 years ago and it was not working, and now also you think it doesn't work. So, but technology improved. Technology improved on voice. You see, if you remember 5-6 years ago when we were using voice speech to text, it was not that working well. Now it works so well. Even if you totally pronounce the spelling or the word totally wrong, and it still takes it and it auto-corrects it. So all of this technology is helping us now provide better virtual assistant, provide a user experience layer to any existing technology and make it more humane and natural. And yes, Asdishan was one of the examples where you can actually by voice say, hey, I want to book a train ticket from Delhi to Ghaziabad, say on 30th of June. You can actually do the conversation and do the ticket, and you can also say, hey, मुझे 5 kg आशीर्वाद आटा के 10 बैग दे दो, कितना हुआ? 1000 रुपया, अच्छा 2 निकाल दो, अभी कितना हुआ? 800, चलो ऑर्डर कर दो. That's for different client. So we build these virtual assistants for businesses. So we are not B2C. And now BharatGPT was kind of regular evolution and progression for our platform. We are essentially a conversational AI platform where we build virtual assistants. And as I was saying, the natural way is voice and the video as well. We also build video bots. So what does that mean? Say for Chennai police, we created AI police where citizens can talk to police virtually. And it's a real police women. We have created the video avatar and cloned the voice, and user can interact, register a few complaints and all that. So we are developing more on it, but so think about not just text, voice, it's a video as well.
Good. I'll come back to you because I think we have plenty of such use cases that we can speak about. But at this point in time, with Reveri, I mean, you also are creating a lot of voice assistants because basically you have been into conversational AI. A lot of progress has happened. People are already talking about LLMs. You told me you don't want to talk about LLMs, so that's fine with us. But I'm sure you'll have a lot of things under the in your cabinet that is kept secret. At this point in time, the kind of stuff that you're doing, say for MG Motors, the creating this in-car voice assistant, for GeoPlay, and for all the others, could you just very quickly take us to the what you're building and how you're building it?
Okay, sure. Thanks. So it's not that I don't want to talk about LLM. The fact is that, so let me still give you a little bit of an answer to what you asked. So we are not a very new company, right? We have been working on Indian language computing for almost 15 years now. 2009 is when we started. So when we started, at that point in time, the internet or the digital world practically had zero representation for Indian languages. I mean, you could not have had a phone or an access device on which you could, on the internet, even type and see in Hindi, right? Forget about my mother tongue Odia, which came only after 2018. And internet has been in India since 1995. So for almost 2 decades, Indian users were deprived of being able to use their languages on the internet, a generation gone. So when we started, when all of that was not there, we started with the mission to bridge the language divide on the internet. That's what was our objective. Because internet is the only democratic medium where knowledge sharing happens. And if India was to empower its populace with that free access of knowledge, then people who knew stuff, they can contribute on the internet and others can discover and read, right? So that's what was our sole objective. Therefore, when we started and there was no user data, there was nothing that was there, and when you have to build technologies, we started with foundational technologies in the first place. And from there, that is, display, input, and those kind of things, we quickly moved into AI technologies, which started with transliteration, translation, and our objective was to be able to make all of that work very well with as little data, because there is no data available. We have to sit and create a bunch of 10 or 5 or 15 engineers would be sitting and creating data. So that's what we were doing. And over these years, we have seen how internet has transformed, and we did a lot of firsts, but the fact is that that got into our DNA. Today we are able to deal with a lot of data, and we understand that if we have to create a lot of very high efficient, I would say, technologies, then you need to look at the language in the first place, right? And if we are looking at large language models, probably there is a lot that we should be looking at India in the first place. When I'm looking for the kind of models that we will augment, for example, we fine-tune a model and so on, to me the image is something like the overcrowded train, jahan pe there are a lot of people who are sitting inside the bogies, and there are others who are hanging or sitting on the, right? So Indian languages are the hanging and sitting on the roof. So from that, we need to change that, right? And like the efforts that Sarvam and many others are also doing, for example, making the tokenizer itself efficient, and there are many other things that you can make them efficient. You won't be able to do all of that when you are only trying to build on what is existing. You would be able to do a lot of those brilliant initiatives when you are building ground up, like, for example, you're doing, right? Hanuman is doing. So, so we have basically created, the almost every stack of language technologies, from the primitive to today's state of the art, from speech to text, all of that, and maybe that's where we are going.
Yeah, thanks. You actually not very subtly told us that you're tackling a lot of the kind of challenges that other people are facing. But let's see actually whether you are doing it or not. Let's ask the other Vivek. Now, when we're talking about Desi LLMs, especially the Indic LLMs, I think you on your website also have very clearly, in our conversations also, you have made it categorical that data collection is the first hurdle, because language on the internet is almost like 60-70% is predominantly English. So when you get it to other kind of languages, you face the problems of, one is the data collection part of it. I think you are working with Bashni for some part of it, but I'm not sure whether whether the data is, the quality of data is a big question mark in India. Second, I think you have already spoken about tokenization costs, because for Indian, for any word in, say, Hindi or Tamil or Kannada, etc., the cost of tokenization goes up. So these are some of the challenges that I would like you to, speak, and how you're addressing them.
See, I think, and I think that it's an ongoing process. I think the fact is that, if you look at something like Common Crawl, okay, 0.1% of the data in Common Crawl is Hindi, and all other Indian languages are further put together a similar kind of number. So the representation of, that's in terms of just volume. And then when you look at that data and you look at the quality of that data, it is actually extremely poor. So, and I think that there was some in AI for Bharat, we had put out something which was a Sangraha, which actually has all open source Indian data that was there. And it is, I think it is probably somewhere, I don't know the exact number, but 50 to 75 billion tokens. And you can't do anything with that kind of amount of data, right? So therefore, in the end, when you're looking at even the small models that people train, there are trillions of tokens we are talking about, and actually having a you take everything, and much of that is translation-ease. It's very poor quality. It's not really. So I think that's one of the challenges as to how to actually create high quality data. And but one of the interesting things, and I won't actually go into a full technical detail of what we are thinking, but I think I just want to give, the interesting thing is that LLMs themselves, okay, have actually opened up a new, and you can actually build, the ways of creating data in 2024 are very different than 2022. Okay, so therefore there are many interesting techniques that people can use to create data, and many of them are actually kind of specialized models to create data itself. So, and I think that's the way that you have to go. And other people may have. I think that, for example, something like if you are looking at, say, a national kind of open source data, then actually they should be created as open data sets. But the raw data, again, is not very useful. You have to actually process it in various interesting ways to make it possible. But absent those kinds of things, you have to actually be innovative in thinking how to increase this by a couple of orders of magnitude, which is what you need to actually to train someone.
Yeah. So in your particular case, of course, you have opted to use you use pre-existing LLMs and build atop these as a layer. But in case of Vishnu, of course, you are talking of building a foundational model from scratch, and so are people like Pranav Mistry and Krutrim, etc. Now, I was having a discussion with Pranav about Sutra, and he told me that he's using 2 transformer models. So one, of course, is the traditional transformer model, and the second one is he's also using an NMT architecture. Now, in that particular case, he says that is helping me, along with the help of synthetic data, which I think you were alluding to, is that it's helping him reduce the cost of tokenization at this point in time. And he went on to make a claim that the cost of tokenization for any Desi language would be as much on par with the approach that he's using, on par with the tokenization for the English language. Now, in your case also, you're building a foundation model from scratch. If you can just tell our audience with what kind of approach are you using, and how is it, what are the challenges inherent in it?
Yeah. See, there are 30 trillion tokens on, where a lot of data is there, but mostly English. So Indian data or any other language, except for German, which is about 5%, most of it in points, 0.1, 0.2. So because internet itself doesn't generate larger data, and most importantly, the quality data, like say, if I have to work on a model which understands genomics, there is nothing in Hindi which will work. So, right, so that's another challenge. So the subject-wise challenge, quality, quantity, everything is a challenge. And then there are so many languages. That's another challenge. So we approached it in a different way, because when we, as Professor Vivek was saying, all the tokens when we started were like less than 100 billion, and then there are trillions of tokens of English. So it was a thing which people should not even attempt, right? Like, so the best thing is to just like fine tune it with something and then build it. So how do you build it? So we took a different approach. We said that if English is making it overwhelmed, so why don't we have equal representation, or at least bring a semblance of representation. Because synthetic tokens are another thing. I had large compute, so I could create a lot of synthetic tokens, but they're not good quality, right? Like you're training something, again, building the same quality tokens rather than creating something which is good, which is more deeper and more contextual, more varied. So synthetic, like even NVIDIA approached us with saying, I have a lot of synthetic tokens. Everyone was sounding same. So we didn't take that. So we took a different approach, which I would want someone who has done that to explain later in that. He would do it in a lot of technical way. But having said that, I will make it very simple. What we did was, there is a lot of connection between Indian languages. Virtually every language is similar. Lot of similarities there. Telugu, Kannada, if you see, I'm a Telugu person. Kannada is so similar, like 70–80% similar. It didn't take me very little to just learn Kannada. Same with Tamil, Malayalam. All the languages are branched and virtually everyone is connected. So we have kind of integrated that, used that common model where it understands what is the commonality, but also there are some very big differences. Some words are very different. Like Telugu has a word called double R, which is not present in any other language. So these differences are what we have really worked on. And that's where we are trying to create a data sets which can be used for other languages, but also have their own context. That way I'm treating the whole Indian data set as an equal thing. And then if you see Hanuman, it can speak 98 languages. So we are kind of doing it for other languages in the world. So Arabic itself has 10 different varieties of the way they speak, though it's called Arab in, like if you go to Egypt, the Egyptian Arab is totally different than what they speak. So we are doing that. European languages is another place where there is a huge scope, I felt like, because if we can crack this, then virtually we open up all English language world for us, and that will become our expertise. People will say, what is difference between large language model? Like everyone is same, right? Like it's all about the numbers, 665, 700, 2 trillion. Now somebody is building a 2 trillion, I think Amazon. So that number won't matter at all. What matters is how well your model does a good job in a particular thing, which we will be known for. So we use Microsoft for Excel, and we use Google because it's easy to collaborate and work on it. So that's what I feel will slowly start a cleavage. And then India is a place where we can build this kind of data set. So which country has that opportunity? That's what we are trying to do.
I think it makes tremendous sense from the point of view, actually, for the business. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding, as I said, lies in the eating. So in this particular case, like say with BharatGPT, if somebody is trying to book a ticket and is talking in Kannada or Telugu, they want a proper, appropriate response. We have dealt with challenges like data collection and all that we have spoken about. I don't think your experience is going to be any different from what the others have spoken. But in the case of, say, other kind of things, like, say, whether it's a copyright violation, whether it's plagiarism, or even whether it's hallucination and biases, I know Arvind will not agree with me. He sees it as a feature. But it's a nuisance, because at the end of the day, regardless of whether humans hallucinate or not, we all hallucinate. And so do machines. But I think we're more forgiving of humans rather than when it comes to machine, we expect them to be perfect. So in your case, what are the kind of precautions that you're taking? How are you addressing the challenges? Is it one way? I think some of the speakers spoke about keeping humans in the loop, human evaluators. That's one way of going. What are your approaches?
Yeah. So one disclaimer, Ask Disha is not using BharatGPT. That's our classic NLP intent classification entity extraction. So we are still testing BharatGPT with Ask Disha. But we have 60 plus other implementations of BharatGPT. You can see an NPCI that's powered by core over BharatGPT there. So I think the problem which we are trying to solve in core over is very, very narrow, unlike I think Hanuman and Sarvam are trying to solve, right? So in our case, you cannot use BharatGPT and ask BharatGPT to create a letter or write a poem or say who is the Prime Minister of India or the Prime Minister of UK. So we are not that B2C general purpose LLM. And data, no, we did not have much problem because we already had 130 crore users who have used our virtual assistant, and we have good data in non-English languages, but again, not to create the model from scratch, but good enough for us to do the fine-tuning on existing base models. And so we have, though we support 100+ languages, only 12 are part of BharatGPT, where we don't have to do the translation. Say you ask question in Kannada, you get Kannada response. But except those 12 languages, we use translations. We are also integrated with Bhashini. So we do kind of double translation to get the response in the language user wants. So our universe is very, very small. Our universe is, say, a client. So if, say, NPCI is our client, and our universe is just the data given by NPCI. And copyright issue, again, we do not have much. Yes, we trust the base models data, which is having Apache license, and whatever response we give to the user of our client, that response is from the content given by the client. And we also give the reference. So this is the response we generated from this web page or this PDF page or whatever data they give. So for us, less challenges, and we could solve those.
Fair enough. Vivek, you, Vishnu, anybody wants to comment on the use, especially when it comes to enterprise use? I mean, individuals using it, it's okay, they're more forgiving. Perhaps enterprises may not be as forgiving if it starts high.
So, in fact, enterprises are the biggest, value creators, and also the biggest challenge because of two reasons. They want precision, right? Like somebody is in finance, or somebody is a bank, or somebody is a healthcare. They don't want anything to hallucinate. And hallucination is I don't even call hallucination. It's like I'm a person who knows a lot of things. So if you ask me, I will not say I don't know. I will somehow answer it. It might not be precise. So that's what is called as hallucination. But something precise should be like, I know only this. The more specialized you are, you will always say, I don't know that. You know that to tell, I don't know that. Or if you tell something, then it will be very, very accurate. So that's how a scientist looks at it, right? So that's the difference. And for that, we need to take a different approach. I can't take my big model Hanuman and then make it very precise in anything. If you want to particularly use it for some particular, like say a bank or like healthcare or like the other thing we are building for interpreting genomics, it has to be really trained for that. And then you don't even need that big models. You need smaller models. You need 3 billion, you need a 7 billion parameter. Even smaller, because inferencing cost will also be less. Training them would be easy, it doesn't lead, and then you can even put. So that's the approach we have taken. So that's the reason we have been concentrating one model, which is a big, we are chasing a lot of things there because it's a kind of consumer tech where we want everyone to use it for their general purpose, write an email, create chats, whatever, ask who is Prime Minister of India, that kind of things. Nowadays, I think search also will change. People don't want to go to Google, ask again, open a link, do it. They just want to know the answer, what exactly is that, ask more questions. So we haven't put prompting there. Like if you ask a question, it will even tell like what are the other questions around it. So that's one thing. For businesses, we have smaller models, which we work very closely with them, use their more data sets. Because if you see the world, 90% of public data sets are already there in all the large language models. But enterprises have data which they don't want to share, if they can't share. Only 1% of data in enterprises is in large language models. And that too, ChatGPT took it. Now, like, nobody can take it. They have done it when nobody knew about the power of generative AI. Now, like, people won't allow you to take anything which is copyrighted or something. It's not right. It's not. So that's the approach we are taking. Like, for enterprises, we have small models which we work on for the particular use case.
Yeah, you can add.
Yeah, so yes, this is something that we have faced a lot. I mean, I would say that people having more trust on the machine than on the human beings has got a background because it started with the calculators. We all started learning tables and we would make mistakes. But if the same table was to be given to a calculator, it will never make a mistake. So we started building a trust on the machine. It's always perfect, right? And when the same machine started going beyond that into natural language, from the digital or the computing language to natural language, obviously it started making a lot more mistakes because it's way too hardlined. I'll give you an example. In India, most people write Indian languages in English letters, right? I mean, the people who know English. So in our initial days, we used to get all the inputs in phonetic English, and people would expect the output to be absolutely correct. And there is no correct spelling in phonetic English for any Indian language or name or anything. And they would make spelling mistakes over and above that. Obviously, the output will be wrong, and that would be unacceptable. So today, when we are talking about the similar kind of expectation, no matter what we do, there would be dissatisfaction. So I think, like you've mentioned, Ankush has mentioned, that we don't solve all the problems using one tool, right? You do have different tools for that, and for some of these, I think a rule-based method is actually a lot more accurate.
Yeah, talking about all these hallucinations and biases, etc., I think Marvin Minsky, who was one of the founding fathers of AI, was asked, and I'm paraphrasing, basically was asked, are you afraid if machines become sentient, more powerful, and sort of out, saying, no, I'm not in the least bothered about it, because if machines become like humans, they'll be as muddled and confused as us. So I think there was a lot of truth in that kind of perception. Before I open it up to the audience, one quick question. Can you give our audience a rough course of building a kind of Indic SLM or LLM? I mean, let's call it a small language model for this for a matter of convenience. The context is basically everybody remembers the Sam Altman versus Rajan Anandan and Gurnani debate, where he says, okay, you need $100 million to build it. He said, no, we can probably, 2 startups can come together and probably do it in $10 million. So one, of course, is it as cheap as that? And is funding easier? Because we have some VCs also here. So is funding very easy, or why are private VCs shying away from putting money behind such projects? Any one of you can take it.
So this is a slightly subjective question. If we looked at the kind of money that was spent on building ChatGPT, it was intimidating, right? Immediately people would think that it is not the kind of money that we can spend. So that actually is very good, because it forces us to think differently about building the same or similar or even better, right? But at a less cost, right? So I think there is enough research that is happening. I'm sure my colleagues here will also agree that there is enough research happening where we would be able to produce things that are costing not a tenth, but maybe 100th or 1,000th of that, and supporting at least the 11 major Indian languages, 22 are official, right? And also build multimodal. However, here is one thing that I would still mention, is that, sorry, I lost the train of thought. Maybe I'll let somebody else.
We're talking about the costs, yeah.
No, I think the fact is that if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, and this is not anything India specific, the cost of building the same size model with the same number of tokens is at least order of magnitude, if not, I mean, that's a generic thing. And the quality, right, of a 7 billion model today is much better than a 7 billion model was 2 years ago. So I think the quality is getting much better. The cost of training is getting less. So therefore, it depends on what. But if you're talking about, as a 2 trillion parameter model, I don't know what that would cost. Clearly, there are people with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of GPUs who are.
Yeah, we haven't even spoken about the GPU part of it. I didn't want to get into that.
So that is something that's different. But right that is different than what we're talking about. But if you want to talk about something that's extremely useful, and especially as various people you were mentioning about the small language models. With enterprises, they don't want to solve AGI, they want to solve their problem extremely accurately and in a good way. And it is their problem, and it is their data, and it is their context. You can actually do it much cheaper than that.
So yeah, I got back the thought that I was. So the more important thing is the cost of running. It's not only the cost of building. And in cost of running that we, what we have been mentioning. So just on the token itself, because we lose the benefits against English, we are at least 7 to 11 times more expensive in any of the Indian languages today. So the cost of running itself becomes a determining factor. You may have spent more today, but eventually if you run very cheap.
Recently, IBM released Ignite, right? Of course, ChatGPT and all those stuff. And we are doing, generally what I do is I kind of benchmark these models from responsible AI point of view, right? Because these are open source, I can quickly take it, we have benchmark, we run it. But interestingly, I'm not, first of all, I've not yet tested or I have not benchmarked.
So just a request,
Indian
what's the
LLMs.
question?
Yeah, Indian LLMs so far. So generally what I'm seeing is that Indian LLMs are not publicly publicizing them to the research community like us. So I will just ask you from all of you, like when can we have that so that a research community can go and play with them. Thank you.
Yeah, our model is in the alpha version now, so we are releasing the full model as soon as next month. So then we'll give access, you can go and test it, mark it on responsible AI, any sorts of evaluations people are trying to do it. In fact, we are creating a Hugging Face of kind of thing for Indian model, so people can even test it and evaluate. So we have created a huge evaluators force also doing that, because ultimately people should test and tell it. That's how we become better and better, right? So it's an important fact.
You can use BharatGPT. You can go to bharatgpt.ai. So there will be a link. Try this. But you have to do some work there. You will have to create a virtual assistant, because it will not come with the default information. You add your PDFs or you add your content, and you can use BharatGPT. We also have other options. You can use ChatGPT, Gemini, or BharatGPT. You can even use both. How the flow happens, we create virtual assistant. You can add your content if this is the intent, that is the question, this is the answer, supervised way. You can skip that part. You can choose BharatGPT and add the content. You train it, and your virtual assistant would be ready with BharatGPT. We also have third layer.
I think we can give the step-by-step process a little bit.
Few seconds. If you say, if you don't want to use BharatGPT with the content.
Yeah. Any other? Lovely. And anyway, you can have a one-on-one conversation also. Yes, please.
Thank you for a lovely panel. We talked about synthetic data and issues with that, especially from a Desi LLM point of view. Let's say even if you have unlimited amount of GPU, there is still very minuscule data that all of you spoke about. For us as India, as country, to get to a certain stage where we can have a large model or even a very comprehensive set of small models, how should we collectively approach the data problem? If there is no water in the well, what will you get in the bucket?
Absolutely. We say data is the new oil. Where's the oil?
Okay, so very, very good question. I think there is no short answer to this one. I would say that all the data that was available for English to come here was voluntarily created by people all over the world, right? And that includes a lot of Indians who were contributing in English. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, that has not happened for India because we didn't even have a way to write in our own languages on the internet for a really long time, 20 years. So yes, we do suffer with that. But beyond that, the problem that we have seen is that when you collect a lot of data, like Vivek also mentioned, that when you collect whatever data that is available on the internet, it is extremely noisy when it comes to Indian languages. And it being noisy has got multiple reasons. For example, when you are writing in English, any of us, we have a spell checker and many other such tools, right? For Indian languages, such tools do not exist. So whatever that gets created in whatever form has got a lot of other reasons because of which, without a user's knowledge or ability, there is a lot of noise that goes out there. So these are the factors that have already been impacting. Now, how do we solve this? To be able to do that, I would say that, we have to be a little bit cautious, but at the same time, let's look at other modes of collecting data. For example, we do see that there is a large amount of audio and video data that is getting created pretty regularly, right? And thanks to the improvements in technologies and bandwidth and so on and so forth, that is there. So if we are able to take that, convert and use, I think that is a great source instead of relying on only text data, which is what OpenAI, etc. have done so far.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, there is the Bhashni repository of data, but I do not know how effective that is.
No, yeah.
it's all of that.
Yeah,
collection.
I think the point is that there is obviously data that is there, and there are efforts, okay, which are which are. I think AI for Bharat also has certain efforts to actually collect open data. But I think going beyond the text modality is obviously one very important thing. And even in text, like for example, you have old books in India and all. Now the quality of OCR is actually very poor, right? But now the interesting thing is you can make much better OCR models in the world of LLM. So therefore, how do you actually, so now you can open up new sources of data. Now, sometimes that may be companies doing it, they are the only ones having it, but some of these things probably being national things need to actually come out into the open, right? So therefore, those are kinds of things that basically, when you look at forms, right? And I said both old data as well as new data are things that we can look at.
I would just add one more thing. Since, I would say that this is one area where we actually lost our position of pride. Just for the audience, I'm telling, India as a country has been adopting the digital medium in government offices, PSUs, and publishing. I mean, all the publishers, if you want to publish a book today, your publisher will actually use computers to actually create all of that and publish. But they will not be able to put the same content on Unicode in a searchable way, right? So all of these adoptions have happened for a really long time. That means we actually have a lot of digital content that we could not use. We actually lost all of that. So I think if we are also able to tap onto that, that is great amount of quality resources.
But now
Great.
it would be easier to tap onto that, some of the data than before. Yes.
We can take 2 more questions, very quick ones.
I have a question here. So thank you, everybody. Really great talk so far. From a business model perspective, you have on one end Corover, who's doing very B2B enterprise digital assistance. But then for the rest of you, I mean, are you looking at a model moving forward where you open up your LLMs for other people to come and use, and then they pay per use or something like that? Or is it
LLM
going
as a service or something?
LLMs as a service, yeah, basically.
Yeah. So we have the B2C model, which is there in the public. So it's currently it's free, right? Anybody can use it, and it will be like that for some time because I want a lot of people to use it. We are not going to monetize it, at least in the current stage. So later we might come up with a pro version, which will be a premium. So that's for a general purpose. But when it comes to the business, we have our own way of doing that. So we are building many LLM applications for various businesses and various domains. So that's where you create value, because this is a huge potential for India as a business, as a value, because that's where all the money is. So if you can build models which are cheaper, easy to implement, then there is a global market lying down there, because currently the market leader is Microsoft, right? Like, so they have their one model of doing things, and it's super, super expensive. India can do it for a lot cheaper cost. So model as a language, the whole infrastructure, the whole application, building it, there are on top of it, you can even do managed services. There is a huge value there. That's what we wanted to capture, by Hanuman, because if you can create a platform through which you can implement that, we thought that it's going to unlock huge potential in the generative AI field for the country.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think I actually echo what Vishnu is saying. B2B is actually the places where, from a monetization perspective, it seems to be the most effective way of doing it.
And many of these Indic LLMs anyway have these pro versions also now. Yeah. Final question, please. Yeah, your mic.
Better now? Yeah. ChatGPT 4 that came out had a lot of support for Indic languages, and all the global models will follow that on the path. Given that train is coming down such a big speed, where does that leave all the Indian players in that context in 12 to 18 months from now?
So, I don't know if, let me take a cut at that, yeah.
I like that.
Okay,
The batsman
It
is
seems
coming
like an
out.
interesting question.
Yeah.
You did not attend a session we held examining. We had Sunaina. She runs the Microsoft multilingual evaluation. What you are saying is a hypothesis that is utterly wrong. Yes. Utterly wrong. Don't trust at false advertising.
Not only that, I mean, I think all of them will tell you that it has been pre-trained on the English language. So that's basically the reason, yeah. But.
So I think, certainly they are getting better, but still they have a long way to go in Indian languages. But having said that, as for many, many real things, you don't need that size of model to do useful things anyway. So actually, you can actually get much better value if you on a domain specific thing for much lower cost, and that's how it actually will be used. I think that if you're talking about if you're trying to do something I do 3 times a day, use whatever the best model is, whatever it is today, with GPT-4o or it's something else, use it. But if I'm trying to do something that I'm doing 1 million times a day or 1 billion times a day, that's not going to work.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, folks, I think we could have taken a lot more questions, but we are on time, actually. So please give them a big hand.